This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a meeting of the Vernon Township MUA. I'm just going to read the statement of compliance. It wasn't on the other agenda. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this regular meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 20th, 2020 by delivering to the press such notice and posting the same at the municipal building and file with the office of the township clerk. We'll salute to the flag. If you have a flag.
Got one.
Ready, everyone?
Got one here.
Pledge of allegiance
To the flag
to the flag
of the United
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
which
it stands,
stand
one
one
nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
Liberty
with liberty
and
and
justice for all.
justice for all. Okay. So I have, we take a roll call. And just so I know this, Andy, are you taking notes? Are you taking minutes?
I'll take minutes.
Good. Angela Erickson is not present. Kristen Wheaton? Kristen's here, right?
I saw her on video.
I did see her, yeah. Paul Carney?
Here. Present.
Andy Pitzker?
Present.
Dave McDermott?
Here.
And Mike Fury's here. So what I'm going to do, because there's a lot of people on this, I'm going to switch over to this PowerPoint presentation, which is essentially the same agenda that we have, the official agenda. I want to welcome everybody to this. This is an interesting way of doing meetings. I've been doing a lot of these. I'm sure all you have been doing them. So the first order of business, well, what we like to do, because we do have people on the meeting. I'm not sure if the mayor or Harry wants to say something before, or you want to wait till we get a little bit of discussion. But we're going to actually open up to the public. We make a motion to do that.
I'll make the motion.
Make a motion. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I guess we'll open it up to the public. If either the mayor wants to say something, Harry, would you like to go first?
No, I have nothing to say at this time.
Nothing from Harry?
Nothing from me.
Howard?
Oh, okay. I'm on this meeting primarily for two reasons, really. One, I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks to you guys who make up MUA for all of the hard work that you've been doing. It's obvious that you've taken the charge very serious. And I want to thank Council President and former Mayor Shortway for appointing this committee, because it's I'm not really so sure what kind of group he had when he was mayor, and I can't comment on that. But I do know he experienced some frustrations, and I can understand why he experienced those frustrations, because before this virus hit, this MUA situation was the scariest thing facing me as mayor, and it's still very scary. Although this virus is changing our way of life and it's decimating our economy, it's taking some of our lives away, I do know that at the end of this whole thing, this MUA situation will still be here, and it still has to be dealt with. So I am so glad that we've got this team on board. And I felt the need to say that because, quite frankly, I don't really think that in the last couple of weeks that my responses to some of the emails that I've been getting from Chairman Fury has really reflected that. They have not been timely. And there's no excuse for that. You know, I'm the mayor, I'm in the seat, I ran for the office, and so I just need to suck it up like everybody else in this nation is doing. But I'm here to say that I'm going to move this whole issue of the MUA up to a higher priority on the list, and you're going to see more response from me. But what I really want you to know is that what I've seen and what the kind of things that you recommended and the directions what you're moving is what we really need to do. And I'm going to support that. I don't know exactly what the future holds. You know, there might be some personnel changes, but I'm convinced that we have within our staff the personnel to address some of those changes. We can't address the perfect situation, but we can survive. And not only do I think that we can survive, we can even move forward. And I'm confident in that. That's not only because of me, because I know I've got the support of the council president, and I know I got support of my business administrator, and I know I got the support of the staff. So for those commissioners who may be wondering, gee, I wonder if this guy meant it when he said he wanted to move forward. Yes, I do. And I just want to say that we're going to do the very, very best we can. There are some things that I can't talk more specifically about at this point in time because a lot of them are personal things. We've got to check with people and to see if we can do some of the things we would want to do, and if we can, how will we do them, and what are the ramifications of those? But you should know that the job that you're doing is extremely important, and it's not a job that you're just doing because of you. It's a job you're doing for us, and I'm going to be there with you. And so that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close it to the, make a motion to close it to the public.
I'll make the motion. Or I'll second it.
Motion by, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The one thing I want to say before we get into the agenda, I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank, you know, Town Council President Harry Shortway, Chuck Volkner, Danell. I know we've been asking a lot of questions, and I have to tell you, you've been very responsive. Especially Danell has been so helpful, kind of getting us on the path, because I know I ask a lot of questions, but we ask the questions because we need to know how to move forward with certain items, and everyone's been very cooperative. And I think, you know, the discussion, we're still having more discussion, and I think that's going to be helpful, because no matter what we have to do, the MUA is going to have to work closely together with the township to address some of the issues. And we have, you know, we have a number of issues, and that's what's going to lead us right to the first item. If you look on the screen, the administrator update and discussion. As everyone knows, you know, Matt Biagini, you know, resigned early in April, effective at the end of April. Matt did a great job. I think everyone was happy with, you know what he did in the short time that he was on the MUA. But one of the discussions I want to have, and I want to get everyone's opinion on this, is instead of advertising for necessarily an executive director, would it be better? And we put out a advertisement and a job description for what we call more of an administrator rather than an executive director, which I believe if we went the executive director route, we'd have a hard time meeting that salary range and getting some candidates. So I wanted to get everybody's opinion on the administrator. If you had a time to, look at and the idea was we were going to combine some of the administrative functions and the executive director functions and put it all under one position, and then seek that candidate. So if you guys have an opinion, I'd like to hear it. I know we circulated something, but I believe this is the number one priority. We need to address, Matt leaving, and then we have to go out and seek out and advertise, and then seek a replacement for him. So I want to get everybody's opinion on that.
Well, I feel, this is Paul, I feel that no matter how we fill it, it obviously has to be filled. We need someone in that position to run things on a day-to-day basis. We need someone who can handle the administrative aspect of it, and we also need someone who, has a good, rapport, or can establish a good relationship with the DPW and the other township people that we, as an MUA, need to keep this thing rolling. So, if it basically for me, if we find people or peoples that fill that role, and we keep the the salary, not too much different, or let's not let it get too elevated from where we are now, I don't have a problem with going in that direction.
Good. Anybody else?
This is Andy Pitzker. In discussion, Mike, you and I worked on this and tried to dial this in. One of the things I feel we need with this is some direction from the mayor and town council president if this is the way they want to go, because in the future, this position is more about being project oriented as well, and driving the business, but also driving the initiatives that are going to have to come in the future if this is the vision that we're trying to move towards. When we wrote this description, Mike, we talked about that this becomes more of being able to manage with leadership, but also be prepared to start running projects that are going to come up as we go to the future. Are we in agreement to that?
Oh, I agree with that. They're obviously, if we move down the road of upgrading the pump station 2, upgrading the sewer system, putting lines in, and then addressing the force main, yeah, those are going to be pretty big projects, and it's going to be a lot of administrative functions in order to make that roll. And then the other issue is the possible transfer station, which we'll discuss individually. But does anybody else on this administrative position?
Let me just make some comments on this. The overall objective, we've got to be able to reduce cost. We've got to be able to do that, and we've got to be able to improve maintenance, because we see what has happened with the equipment and stuff now. And we've got to improve efficiency, and I don't think, sometimes those butt heads with each other, but our job is to deal with those in a way that we come up with the best situation. So what we really need, we need someone that has the operational knowledge of this situation, of the MUA. And we need someone who has the financial and administrative part of it. It would be ideal if we could get one person with both. We might not be able to do that. Whether or not this remains an MUA or it ends up being a part of the municipality, we're going to need the same thing. What I really want with the MUA is what we've got, say, for example, with our police department and our DPW. We've got somebody at the DPW who understands that aspect of it. I don't have to really know everything that the DPW needs to do. I don't have to know everything that the police department needs to do. But I do need a leader who needs to say, Mr. Mayor, this is what we need to do, and explain it to me in a way that I can understand it, and in a way where I can marshal the support for it. We need the same thing with the MUA. I'd like to see us be able to do that within the confines of the dollars that we're spending now, and maybe be able to save some money. So as it relates to the administrative piece, we need someone who has the knowledge and background of the operational side of it, and someone who can handle the management and administrative side of it.
Right, I agree. We did get, just to let everybody know, we did get 2 applications already, and Dave and Andy have looked those over, and we're still looking them over. And if we have to advertise, we're going to advertise with the League of Municipalities and on the township website in order to get some candidates. So I agree with Howard. We're looking towards getting cost savings, and the way that we're going to do that, Howard, is if we, because we're paying a certain amount of money for the administrative interlocal agreement, and then we're obviously paying the person to do the job. If we were able to get somebody to handle that whole job, I think we have the potential to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Do we all agree? Do we all agree that we want to go ahead and advertise this? Because the plan is to finalize the advertisement and then somehow get it out tomorrow or early next week.
As it relates to the advertisement, and I'm just really banking on part of my experience has been like now, I guess 7 years on the North Jersey District Water Supply Commission. And that's the water side, but it's still kind of an MUA kind of like operation, but it's just the water side of it.
Right.
It's not the same thing. I understand that, but I have serious doubts that we're going to be able to get someone who understands both the operational side of it and the administrative side of it with what we really want to pay.
I agree.
We might be able to, but I have serious doubts, and that does not mean we should not. And that's why I made the statement initially. I believe that we've got a very, very small MUA compared to a lot of them. We've got some big problems, but I believe that we've got within our workforce, we've got a small workforce. We've got some good people, very competent people, and I think we can put together the combination of someone with the operational experience and someone with the financial and administrative experience. Now, does that mean you shouldn't go out and advertise? I think this is a decision that you've got to make. But I think when you do go out and the advertisement, you're going to be really shocked at what it's going to require in terms of the cost to get somebody to do this.
Yeah, no, I agree, Howard. I'm pretty familiar with the business and the people who are running these type of organizations. They are making significantly more money than we're looking at. It's going to be difficult to meet that salary range, but we're going to, like we said, we're going to explore every different angle we can. We'll within the town itself and then outside, but at least we need to get the advertisement out and then start the ball rolling. So does everybody agree we need to put this advertisement out?
For sure.
Do you mind if I say something really quick, Mike?
Sure, Danelle.
Okay, so the only thing I would just ask you guys to think about is whether or not you're going to be offering health benefits, because you're not required to. You're not large enough to be required to. Obviously, you only have one employee. So you're not required to offer health benefits. And also the position, depending on how many hours you're talking about in a week, it could be pensionable. So if it's a full-time position, it would be enrolled in pension, which means we are going to have contributions that we're going to have to pay towards that. So you're not just talking about salary. If you're thinking of making it full-time, then it would have to be pensioned, and then you guys would have to decide whether or not you're going to be offering health benefits and what health benefits you're going to be offering.
I agree. I have a question for the rest of the people who were on the MUA, and me and Andy were not. Was John Skirbo, did he have a pension, and did he get health benefits?
So
he did. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The position is pensionable. However, if you don't have, if you've been retired from the pension system and you collect your pension, then then you don't have pension coming out. So let's say you hire someone who was in the state pension system in PERS or even PFRS if you were a police officer, and you're retired and you're collecting a pension. When you take this position, obviously we don't know who you are. We didn't plan doing this. Then you wouldn't have pension come out because you already have contributed to the pension system and you're retired from the pension system. However, if you're part-time, like right now, our current executive director is a part-time position. So that position is eligible for DCRP, which is it's kind of like a 401k. That's the best way I can explain it.
So Paul, do you know about Skirbo? Was that pension and medical?
I don't think he was pensioned, and I don't think he had benefits. I think he had health benefits from his prior career. And I think that because I do remember he wanted us to give him a stipend of sorts to help pay for vision.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like we.
Okay, well that's.
So it wasn't.
Hold on.
I mean, when you had benefits, that extremely changes the. You count it all as one cost center as salary and health benefits. It goes up a lot. So that's why we kept our current or soon to be no longer executive director under the hours required for it to be a full-time job. With the whole point that he wasn't going to be eligible for health benefits.
Right. Okay. Well, that's something we have to consider as we move forward. So.
Have we?
Well, I mean, I think it's something that's got to be considered almost off the bat, only in the sense that if someone's wants to apply for a job or send in a resume, I think they would want to know if it's a part time or just benefits. So. I mean, we don't have to do it today. I mean, we could communicate this a little bit through emails, so that everybody has time to think about it. But I don't think that it's something that should wait too long to have an answer to.
Well, let's look at the job description that we circulated and the advertisement. I think in the advertisement we did say benefits. I don't remember. I have to look at the actual advertisement. But
Let me take
just I think we did we advertised as benefits, and we didn't put a salary range, and we said more of it's commensurate with, the experience.
Yeah, that's what it says. Salary and benefits commensurate with experience.
Right, and because we didn't want to necessarily put a salary range because we thought that would, people won't want to apply if they said, well, I'm not in that salary range, so I'm not going to apply. So, and we're going to obviously get resumes, and then we have to look through them, and the way I'd like to see it done is the way we're doing it now is Dave McDermott and Andy will handle the process of looking at the resumes and then setting up interviews, and then we'll go from there.
So when we talk about making this, I guess combining these roles, are we saying that this new person is going to be the recording secretary as well?
Yes, yeah, it's really in essence taking on all the administrative functions that are currently within the township interlocal agreement, and then taking on the role as the executive director all in one. So it's really, I mean, there's some operational aspects of it, but it's really more administrative. Because I mean, my opinion, I think the job is a lot more administrative than operational. I mean, obviously, if you have background, I mean, Matt had a background in the operation because he ran it and he managed it. It would be ideal, but it's like threading a needle. That's right there. So
yeah,
Kristen, to answer the question, it is a combination of all the functions, and then we have to decide that's the way we want to go.
It seems to me like we might be overpaying then. Yes, a number of the things are administrative, and they could be handled by a more administrative type person. But in terms of like the recording secretary, then we'd be vastly overpaying, wouldn't we? I mean, recording secretary should be like $15-20 an hour, right?
Well, I mean, we that's a good point, Chris, and we can advertise for an administrator and an administrative assistant, because
yeah.
To me,
I think you could put a lot on an administrative assistant, which would be the recording secretary, and then all of those administrative functions, handling billing questions and so forth, and then have a more part-time role for the utility I'll still call it director, utility administrator, that would keep it below that 30-hour or so level that we were at with Matt. Because the advertisement that we have right now is for hours of work are, oh, I guess we didn't say exactly how many hours, but it says Monday through Friday and are flexible between 8 to 4:30. So it sounds like it's a full-time position that we're advertising.
We should change that.
Yeah.
How about
Right, well, so-
part-time positions?
2 part-time positions. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
Makes-
Highway
If
director,
that's the way you want to go, we'll do 2 part-time positions. I'm fine with that.
it sounds simpler to fill.
Well, I tell you, the administrative job will be easier to fill, but if you had a part-time administrator, like if you want to call it director, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be hard to fill. But you put an advertisement out and see what happens, you know?
I spoke to my friend in Pennsylvania who runs the Pocono MUA up there, and he is a retired foreman from the Bergen County Sewer Commission. He was also a commissioner in West Milford. And he said that the majority of your wastewater officials are upper age. And he said it'd be a lot easier to sell a part-time position to somebody who's retired than it would to sell a full-time position.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So is everyone in agreement we want to do 2 part-time jobs, administrative assistant, and if you want to, I think the administrator title is not, if you say executive director, or I mean, if you want to call it director, we can call it whatever you want, but we have to decide on what we're going to call it, you know? So I kind of agree that 2 part-time positions is the way to go.
That's what makes sense to me. I agree that the term executive, you know, kind of signals a level of expertise and leadership that we're probably not really asking for in this position. So I guess I would steer away from the term executive, but I'm trying to think of the terms that, you know, that you would see in the industry, maybe utility manager or utility director. Something.
Yeah, I can tell you that, Kristen. If you call a utility manager, that's also a high level position too.
Okay.
You know, that's you talk. If you say utility manager, that's almost like equivalent to like an executive director. Or,
I'm sorry. When you start throwing the term executive in there, that in people's minds makes the salary go to a certain level as well. So that whatever the title is going to be, or whatever we're going to call this person after they're hired, you have to keep in mind that people expect certain salaries that go with whatever they're called. No matter what the job is, they hear the term executive, then the director expect a certain amount of money. If they hear manager, they expect a certain amount of money. So we have to really be careful in the labeling of the job position, because that will then, you know, raise the expectations of the salary.
I agree. Does everybody agree? Like maybe the title administrator is a better title?
Yes.
May I make a proposal?
Go ahead, Andy.
Maybe to kind of massage the 2 together. Could you call it an MUA administrator manager, and then you have an assistant administrator?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind when you start, like Paul says, you start throwing manager in there, the level of salary jumps significantly, and the expectation.
But when you go to executive, that's a whole nother. I mean, you're over $100,000 as soon as you say executive.
No, I agree. No, I agree. Right. Manager's a low level. I agree. So
you say manager people. You say manager people are looking for 6 figures. So
yes.
I mean, we have to come up with something, and I think even manager is too high of a title. You know, supervisor. You would be the supervisor of. I mean, that's a, you know, people will apply. Some people will be overqualified and say no, and we might get a diamond in the rough. I think that's a fair enough title for what they're going to be doing. And also, there's people right now that probably there's people out of work right now. And it sounds horrible that we might get something better than we were looking for out of this viral situation that exists. But be that as it may,
Right.
If we put an ad out, we may get something better than we may have gotten a month or two ago. So even if you just do it as supervisor of whatever we want to call it, we may find something better than we wanted.
That
Or
works
possibly-
for
Than we
me.
wanted, than we expected.
Or possibly a foreman?
Yeah, that lends itself to working outside more, doing more hands-on work in the field as opposed to
and it's not.
the administrative aspect. I think supervisor or something along those lines is probably more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll do is let me do this. Let me circulate the job descriptions and the advertisements. I'll rework them, and then I'll circulate it around to everybody, and then we'll make a final decision based on that.
Sure.
Is that agreeable?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Sounds good, Mike.
All right, good. Oh, geez. Trying to go to the next slide, and my technology is freezing up. And I just rebooted.
I still hear you.
I lost my connection. Hold on a second. I'll get right back on. I believe the next agenda item is, I apologize for this, everybody.
The DPW work schedule?
Yeah, DPW work schedule. Oh, geez. You like that? All right, so
Awesome.
DPW work schedule. So we sent out a letter on April 1st about the DPW arrangement. The schedule, we tried to narrow it down to a certain amount of hours. That's still be under discussion. I know that was circulated to the DPW. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody. One of the questions that I have is, and I talked to Chuck Volkner about it, is I'm going to, since Matt's gone, I'm going to temporarily kind of take the reins, but I do need somebody who I'm going to speak to, and at the DPW, whether it's the Director of Public Works, but I need one person I need to communicate to about the work schedule and what's going on. So I think Chuck recommended I speak to Ed Babcock, and then that's pretty much how that's going to go. And the other, and we're still working out that schedule, and hopefully that there was a change in September last year. It wasn't memorialized in writing. Now it has been memorialized in writing, and it explains exactly how this is going to work. And I think hopefully we're going to work that out. I think we do need to eventually sit down with the DPW and talk to them. And I know Andy has recommended that, and I think that's probably a good idea that we go over this and explain to them what our position is and the reasons why we're doing certain things. And we're in the effort of, lowering expenses and making it operate better. So one of the discussions we had is about confined space. And Matt has labeled all the locations that we consider confined space, whether it's confined space, a permit's required. Paul, why don't you talk to that, because you're really the expert on confined space, and what is kind of your view?
I don't think I'm an expert in anything, but be that as it may.
Well, you know this.
I don't know if everybody got to see the emails that I went back and forth with Chuck. my question started to arise because, Matt was looking to reduce the amount of hours they were billing us, DPW, and one of the comments that we had gotten back was that they were sending 2 guys every time because of confined space. Well, as you can see in the emails, I'm asking a lot of questions, and every question I get has not been answered yet. Do they enter confined space? Well, they haven't even been trained for confined space entry. They've only been trained for confined space awareness. So to me, that means they're not entering anything ever. So they technically don't need 2 guys every time they're going around to these locations. I've done that. I know the system a bit because I did a little bit of work on it before I was on this board. So they don't need 2 guys going to all these places, which, now the conversation of the confined space comes up, and then I start seeing the costs that are getting tossed out there for training, and they're getting trained on confined space entry, which raises the cost of that. And I don't understand why they're being trained at that level if they're indeed never going to be entering a confined space. I reached out to someone I know I worked with many years ago. He was the head of safety for Suez for a while. He just retired from them last year, and he does it now on the side. He has his own business, and I just reached out to him casually. He's going to write me a proposal, and it's something we could utilize or not. We could go out for bid if need be. But he gave me numbers that were far less than what we were paying right now for 4 guys to go for training. He said what his price is, it could be up to 10 people at the same price. So he's going to come up with a couple of costs on different aspects of this that I will share with everybody as soon as I get them. Probably after the weekend I should have them, and we'll go from there because I think we're spending far too much money on confined space training, especially if it's something that at a level that's never going to be utilized. So we'll have to see where this goes. But right off the bat there, that's going to start saving us money because if the DPW guys think they need 2 people to do these rounds for confined space reasons, that's ridiculous. That cost will get cut in half right away just by the amount of people, and the training dollar amounts will be cut significantly as well. If what I was told is accurate price-wise from this vendor that I was just speaking to. So we'll see after the weekend after I get a proposal what it looks like. And, every dollar counts with this anyway. So, we probably end up saving some money on this. That's it for now. I mean, because one of the questions, the other thing too is if they've ever done confined space, it is very important in case there are ever any safety inspections, which could very well happen when you get audited. Those confined space entries, they have to be logged. There's paperwork that goes along with it. There's air monitoring that goes along with it. So I asked if those exist, and I haven't gotten an answer on that either. And they may not exist because they never did any entries, but it's something that the MUA needs to know and have at their disposal should some kind of inspection occur, because that's the kind of stuff that DEP will ask for, let alone POs they have to buy.
Yeah, all of those locations should be labeled confined space. And like you said, for the paperwork, they should be labeled permit required confined space.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
So what you're saying, Paul, is that none of the locations that people have to go into routinely are signed as confined space?
Well, there are confined spaces, like down in.
There are, but for the day-to-day, routine stuff.
Not that I could think of. If they're walking.
No, I don't think they have to go in.
If they're walking around a pit with a railing, that's not confined space. You might do something and fall over the railing and into, but you could fall off the curb and get hurt too. So there's, I don't think there's any confined space that they have to deal with doing their routine work. And if something has to get done in a confined space, I would think like a pump change out. That's an outside contractor that's going to come in and do that, and they're responsible for their own confined space entry.
All right. And Kristen, and this is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
It sounds like we should do a walkthrough. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I guess, yeah, since we've been in transition for the last year or so with our directorship, it seems like we should have that kind of signage and plan in place for confined space and permit required confined space entry. And if we don't have that, then let's plan a little walkthrough, either with Saren or just, even ourselves, Paul, I guess, working in the business, we know enough to how to classify a confined space. See, that needs to be defined for sure. It's definitely a health hazard, and the workers need to be alert. We need to be alerted to what conditions specifically the workers are working in. And if we don't know that right now, then we better figure it out.
Yeah, there's one other aspect to this as well, is that if the NUA doesn't have confined spaces that the DPW workers enter, I mean, we know they exist, but if they don't enter them, why is the NUA paying for the DPW workers confined space awareness training? Because I'm sure that the DPW guys have confined spaces of their own that they probably have to go into. And if the NUA is hiring them, we are hiring them at their full capabilities, assuming that they have this training. So if we're why are we paying for the town's training of their personnel that we only use for so many hours a week?
I'm sorry, you're not.
I agree.
You're not.
Right, the town paid for that training?
Yeah, the town's paying for that. Any training for the DPW employees with any anything is all being taken care of on the town side. I won't let a purchase order come through us.
Okay, because I just know based on the email that I received, it said that the NUA paid for it in the past, and it was due now at $500 a person, and that's what started this whole thing rolling with me reaching out to the vendors. That's what came in the email to me.
They had requested it at the start of the year, I think, or maybe at the end of last year. It was brought up to Matt, and I told Matt absolutely not, because the whole thought is that the NUA is paying the township for this service. If we were going through an outside service, those individuals would have to have their training and their certifications.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so then I was giving a little erroneous information.
Yeah, right. I wanted to throw something out to the group about, and I wanted to consider this, if we, this person who does this for a living, safety, is it worth doing an assessment of the system and then confirm all the confined space and make sure that we're doing the right thing?
Mike,
Does everybody agree?
Just let me interject for 1 second. I did ask him to provide a quote for a walkthrough and an assessment. So there's no obligation, but he will provide us with a cost on doing something like that as well, so that we know going forward what we're dealing with.
Does everybody agree with that? Is that a good idea?
It's a good idea, Mike, to do, yeah.
For the group, I have a question here, though, is that should we not have a dialogue with the DPW and get a determination what they do from day to day and what they see as confined space work issues?
So we could ask them what they think it is, but
I mean, I went through a tour with Matt and we had Jack there, and I've talked to Jack now once or twice. I think they're trying to do the best they can too, but maybe we need to have a level of understanding from their side as well to understand what they see and what they do every day. Because there are pump changes that are done, and those may be confined spaces, but I think a simple discussion with them and an understanding from their perspective might be in order.
Oh, no, I agree 100%. And I don't want in any way, shape, or form for it to be taken that I'm saying that the DPW guys are, trying to pull the wool over our eyes or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if it's not confined space. It's something, this, and good, I'll just straighten me out a little bit perhaps, but this whole conversation and me going forward is always based on, a pending $2,000 training session for 4 guys. So,
All right.
If that's no longer the case, some of this may change. I still like to get the proposal from the guy, because who knows, if the town's spending $2,000 a year and this is cheaper, it might be something I can pass along to the township or the DPW that they could consider. And I also asked him, because it was mentioned to me in the email that, is going forward, and someone in-house, give the yearly refresher to the other guys. And he said, yes, it's got to be a person with a level of competency that they're comfortable with. And it doesn't seem to me that it's difficult to pass along to an in-house employee that the township can every year going forward do the refresher. So it'd be interesting to see what he comes up with, because, let's face it, even if the MUA is not paying for it, and the DPW is or the township is, if we can save the town money, we're still saving ourselves money down the road on our taxes. So there could be a net positive out of this one way or the other.
Does everybody agree with doing the assessment, and then after the assessment is done, then we have like an independent outside person looking at it that way? So we'll get a price on that, and then we'll. Is everybody okay with that?
We have to own it, and we're the ones. And when it comes to entering a permit required confined space, it's going to be us, our administrator, who's going to be writing those permits, signing those permits. So,
by the way, Kristen, just to let you know, Matt did get signs. He bought signs and he hung them up. Now, I have not been around to confirm if it was done. I have not been to everywhere, but he did say he put them up. So that's a good thing.
I'm not sure if we need to hire anybody, or I guess we'll see what the costs are. But I think our operator has been trained, right? He's now CSE trained, and he knows to go. He's the one who has to go in and work in the facility.
Our operator, excuse me, from what I understand, our operator is not CSE trained. He's not. They're not trained for entry. They were given confined space awareness training.
That's fine. Yeah, right. So that's okay. He's not trained for entry. He's trained for awareness. So he's which everybody should be who's working around these facilities to know enough about when you don't enter someplace. So he knows what the signage is. He knows what the criteria. He knows when he has to go in and do a job. Where he has to enter and what things, what environments he might be in. So I would think that just a walkthrough with a couple of us in the authority, with the operator would be the right start to this. I'm not sure that we need, and if you want to make me part of that task force, I'm happy to do that. I am CSE trained as well. So, we could make that assessment ourselves. We could look at the signage that Matt has put up and talk about the concerns that he has or the work that he has that might involve the need to, what work would require.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
so,
I'm fine either way. I just feel we just need to get an answer to this one way or the other, so that going forward, we know what's going on. And the other big question is, do our guys go into confined space? And if they do not, I mean, that kind of changes the whole scope of this conversation.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds good. Now that you... sorry.
Mike, can I sum up the two things that you've talked about for action now? Because those two go together. One, when we talk about confined space, we need to get the logs from the past to understand that we're in compliance. And two, there's a proposal and the second part of that is a proposed walkthrough with the authority to make an assessment that was proposed by Kristen. And I have an action here: take action and schedule. Do we agree to those two actions?
Yeah. Yes, sure. I definitely agree. And the other is just not to back up on the work schedule. We made a request for the town for all of 2019 to get all the timesheets and any kind of work records, and I spoke to Chuck about that, and he's going to pursue getting that information. And the reasoning for that is we're trying to get a handle on the work schedules and what they're doing, and so we get a better understanding from our perspective of what we expect from them. So Chuck is going to get that information to me, and then when I get that, I'll share it with everybody.
Very good.
All right. Next, transfer station update and discussion. I have Dave and Kristen now. I'm going to defer. My understanding on the transfer station and Howard, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Corey was looking at that. Is that true, Howard? Uh-oh.
Howard, you're on mute.
On mute, Howard. Oh.
So, I can actually tell you that.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Thanks, Danelle.
It's at the bottom of the screen, Howard.
Corey was working on that. He was, we asked him to go ahead and take a look at a transfer station for turning pump station 3 into that.
Right.
I just emailed him earlier today to check in on that. So I don't know where we are, obviously, with the whole pandemic thing going on. I'm not sure where we stand with that, how far he's gotten.
All right. We'll follow up on that if we can get a follow up and get. My understanding was going to do some kind of report and memorialize it and give us a better understanding, how this is going to occur. So.
Yeah, I think so. We did ask him. I'll speak for the town side. Howard's there too. I know, and he can speak to this too. But we did ask him from the town side if he could let us know if there's anything that needs to be done as far as ingress, egress out of the site. What he thought would need to be done, if anything, to the existing structure of the pump station, to be able to handle it as kind of a mini transfer station.
Right.
And he's working on that now, and like everything else, this COVID-19 thing has delayed some things, but Donnell, essentially, I could hear, I couldn't talk because I had it muted, but what she said is 100% accurate.
Okay, good. So we'll discuss that. We'll wait till that comes, and we'll have a better idea how that's going to proceed. The sewer.
So I know Dave and I are supposed to be, leading that kind of subcommittee effort. I guess one of us should reach out to Corey just to make sure that we're in the loop, and if he has any questions or what have you.
All right. That's fine.
Would you please do that?
I can do that, Dave, and I'll do that. And Dave, unless you have already, Dave. Yeah. Okay. I'll do that.
I have spoken to Corey a little bit about it, and he's preparing some documents, and we'll get that soon, and we'll have something to review. If you could follow up with that, Kristen, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, sewer service area, asset management plan. I put them together. I'm not going to talk about sewer service map. My understanding is Sarin needed some information in order to come up with a price in order to do the map. And I believe, Danelle, you gave that information. It was a lot and block information.
Yes, so I did give her, I printed everything out I PDF'd everything that I have from Edmunds. She did ask for it in Excel, so I do need to run that for her. I got that email today. So I need to see if I can get that report in Excel.
Right, and Sarin's following up on that, and then she'll give us an idea how much it's going to cost to put the map together, and that's obviously important. The asset management plan, Sarin made it available. It's a very big document. She made it available on the FTP site, and I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it. My understanding is she had minor modifications, updates. She wanted us to review it. I had some comments. I believe, I don't know if there's any other comments, but what we need to do in order to move forward with anything, we have to do any kind of project, we have to finalize that asset management plan. And part of our responsibility is to eventually approve it and then call it complete. So it's a pretty lengthy document, and I think, in my opinion, I think they did an excellent job. I think they covered a lot of areas. It really is the roadmap to say, where we need to go. Now, I did see a document on the force main. It was a technical memo, and the condition of the force main, and then she is looking into that with the DEP in order to, how to address that. And I don't know if I sent that around. There's a technical memo on the force main that needs to be addressed as part of this process. According to Sarin, that's the only remaining item that she needs to wrap up in order to complete this asset management plan. But it is a lengthy document, and this is going to take a long time to get through. It's very technical. But did anybody have a chance to review it, or no?
Mike, I went through a lot of this, and my reflection of this is that between the mayor and the council and our commission, we need to sit down and discuss in the future how we want to proceed with this process, because there's a lot of financing that needs to be done if we want to get the system back up to snuff after so many years of sitting dormant as it's been. There's a lot of money that has to be put forward, and then we also need some direction here from Sarin. Those are my reflections right now.
Yeah. No, if you read that document, it goes through the costs of upgrading the sewer lines, the pump station, and all those items, and the force main. So those are the issues, and that would be the project. And that's just, and according to what I read, it was about a $9 million project. So I think putting new mains in the ground, pump station, and force main. That's what she estimated. That's what I read.
Yeah, but we're going to need to prioritize things that need to get done, and then also how do we partner with the big users like Mountain Creek in the future to make sure that we have the proper funding to do all of this.
No, I know, I agree.
That's why I think we need direction from the town council and the mayor. Where are we going to go with this? How are we going to chew this elephant down one bite at a time?
And I agree with Andy, and Andy's right. It's a town asset that it's owned by the asset, and this is, our letter that we wrote, that we addressed that. We said, what's the direction of the town? Do you want to do an expansion? Is this the direction you want to go? If that's the direction you want to go, then obviously that dictates how we move forward. So we do need that. I agree with Andy. We need that feedback from the town.
Yeah, I did get into the asset management plan, Mike. I'm still I haven't quite gotten through all of it. I would say for presentation purposes to the committee and elsewhere, we need an executive summary. Because you want. Did they have one?
Yeah, was that in there, an executive summary?
It was on
I don't think there was, right?
It's not really that. Yeah, but it's really not to the level that we're looking for, because I think Kristen is really right on with this, is that we need to put a summary together, a cost, a proposal, which way to go and everything.
You want that to jump right out.
Do you agree, Kristen?
Yeah, that's
what I agree.
You want that just to be right on the front 2 pages. How much money are we talking about for what projects over what period of time?
Yeah. So what I would do is point that out to Sarin, and then she'll make the changes. So I'd ask, and I'll if you want to follow up, Chris, and say that too. That's a good comment.
So we probably want to compile or consolidate our comments to Sarin so that we're not doubling up.
That's fine. If you want to go through me, that's fine. Give me the comments. I agree. Give them all to me, and then I'll reach out to Sarin.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll take all the comments and put it together, and then tell Seren where we'd like to go. So obviously we need to review this some more, and we'll get back to her. So as you review it, there is a hard copy down at the office, right, Andy?
Yes.
There is a hard copy. Yeah, if you want to see the hard copy, you can go down to the office and view it that way. If it's easier to do it that way, you can view it that way. So, any other comments about the asset? Yeah, it's long. It's long.
Wasn't there something in there about inspecting the force main with a camera?
Yeah, I think she had to put new air release valves in order to do that. She had a problem technically to do that. So there's a technical memo. I thought I distributed that to everybody. If I didn't, I'll do it again. She sent a technical memo down to the DEP to review as part of the asset management plan. It was specifically on the force main. Now, apparently that was authorized by the previous MUA. Maybe someone who's on there before remembers that happening.
I don't remember seeing that report.
So I'll circulate it. I'll make a note to circulate that. I thought I circulated it. There is a technical memo, and I did see it, and I'll circulate it around to everybody for everybody to review. That's a shorter document. That's not as long as the asset management plan.
4 pages.
So I'll circulate that when I get a chance.
Thanks.
Update, pump station 2 update, funding source, and this is myself and Angela. Angela's not on the phone. Obviously, one of the things, and we all know, in order for the expansion to happen, there has to be a pump station upgrade. I did reach out to, or Sharin helped me reach out to, I don't know the engineer. I forget the engineer's name. There was previous drawings done, and that engineer was going to check with Joe Hessian from Mountain Creek to see if he was authorized to release that document to us. So at least we have a starting point. But we really can't do anything unless we get those documents. So we're going to try to follow up with Joe Hessian and the engineer and try to get those, and but that would be helpful. I mean, everyone agrees with that. At least we have a starting point. So and then the funding source. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's about the funding source. So
go ahead.
I set up everyone on H2O loans, meaning Corinne, the auditor, everybody that would have access to it. And I guess she's probably just waiting on those documents, I guess, in order to move forward with that, correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you need an asset management plan. If you're going to do funding through the state iBank, the infrastructure loan, you need an asset management plan to be completed. Because
right.
they're connected. They're connected together. So you can't before you do the project. So the funding question is whether it's going to get bonded or through bonding or through infrastructure loan money, and that's going to be the question for everybody, is how to decide what's the most effective way to get the funding source. So that's how it works. Technically, the asset management plan gets submitted. Once it's completed, that's why we have to approve it and finalize it, because you can't get the funding source without the asset management plan.
Right. I think the intent was always to put it through the iBank for infrastructure funding. That's what I've set up so far for it. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer just because of the interest rate.
Yeah. And just to let you know, Danelle, not to cut you, just to know that there's a lot of funding coming from the federal government for water and wastewater projects. So that funding source is going to get greater. Do you agree that, Danelle, could you speak to that about the funding? What your opinion is?
The funding for?
Yeah. You think the iBank is the way to go, right?
Yeah, I definitely think the iBank is the way to go. I mean, as opposed to going for traditional bonds, I would definitely say the iBank. I mean, they have
I
different,
agree.
they have different levels of like interest. It's something like, some of them are, I have to look into it because I went to the meeting, one of their seminars like over a year ago, but at that time it was like some of them were 50% like no interest, and then the other 50% had an interest rate, but it was like something ridiculous, something really low. And even with everything that's going on right now, I don't foresee that those interest rates are really going to climb or change. And again, I think with the asset management plan, I believe that the cost for the plan is forgiven if we move forward with one of the projects that's in there, which is obviously Pump House 2. I mean, that would be Pump Station 2. That would be the most logical one to choose. That's the one that has to get done quickly. And as far as something else that's a good thing about these loans, obviously, is the interest rate. But if Mountain Creek ever decides, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did I just lose everyone? Are you there?
We got you. Yeah, we
Yeah,
hear
we're
you.
here. You're here.
I got you.
She can't hear
Did
us.
I lose you? I can't hear anything.
No. You're muted.
She just muted
We
herself.
lost. She just muted herself.
There's no text messaging on this.
Hello?
Are you,
Yeah,
we
there
can
it
hear
is.
you.
You're on now.
She can't hear us.
Danielle, we can hear
Must have
you.
lost.
Can you
What's
hear
your
me?
zone now? Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, technology doesn't always work, right? She's unmuting and muting. I can see her doing it. All right, we lost her. So we're gonna pursue that. We're gonna look at, eventually if we go down the path of funding the whole project, possibly put out a request for qualifications. That'll be available for any engineering firm to submit if in fact we go down that path. Any other questions about that? No?
I'm good.
Feasibility committee update, MUA versus utility. Dave McDermott or Paul, either one you want to speak to that?
Well, I've said as it goes along, we need an MUA. As far as feasibility goes, it's about getting our house in order. And I think we need to maintain an MUA so that there's an independent set of eyes looking on at what goes on. There's got to be checks and balances.
Hey, Paul, are you on?
I just got back on. My call dropped for some reason. I just got on in a second.
Yeah, so we're asking for the update for the feasibility group, the committee. I don't know when the last time you met.
It's been a bit. It might have been a month. It's something I think we need to possibly get going again. Everything's kind of been on hold because of this virus. But now that we have, means like this.
You there? All right, I think we're losing Paul there.
You may have internet connection issues because now this is a peak time for the internet.
Right, exactly. All right, so they're going to meet. I don't know when they're going to meet. I don't know if Harry's still on. When's the next planned meeting? I'm not sure if Harry's there.
No, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's now that people are getting familiar with the technology, we can call for a meeting soon. We canceled the meeting because of COVID-19, but now we can go ahead.
Good. All right. Well, we'll get an update on another time. All right. Approval of bills, minutes, no resolutions. Before we do that, I had on here a discussion of purchase of a pump. That is in the process of being looked at. The pump was not ordered. What was spec'd out was a replacement pump that was similar to that was there now. And I'm going to ask this question to Danelle. If it's over $6,000, we need 2 more quotes or 1 other quote?
We need 1 other. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You need 1 other written quote. So Matt has a form that he has to fill out that has the different quotes, and then he has to choose which one it is, unless it's on some sort of state contract or.
All right, I'll look into possibly getting a second quote. So I have some vendors that I can reach out to, and then we'll try to look into that to purchase that pump for. And Andy, is that pump station number 3 or is it number 2?
That's pump station 3, and I'm really surprised that we weren't made aware of this. You have to have 2 quotes, because we would have done this a long time ago, or at least a month ago, because this is a way of saving labor. Because currently, right now, what they do is they take that pump out, and they can replace this and not have this problem of every other day having to replace the pump. And that's a labor savings. And then we can keep that pump that comes out of there as a backup if something really went down. And so it made sense to do this, but we weren't sure of the procedure. So neither was Matt. I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
I'm back. I don't know what happened. I lost my.
I actually had a conversation with Matt. Yeah, I had a conversation with Matt, and he is aware that 2 quotes are required. We did speak to our qualified purchasing agent regarding it, because Matt had said that Reiner is the only one that carries this pump, and even if he reached out to a second vendor, that they would just be buying it from Reiner anyway. So the qualified purchasing agent has approved it to be purchased through Reiner. But if Mike just said that we might have other vendors who can get a similar pump that's maybe not the exact same one that would work, that's fine. I just need 2 quotes for whatever specific item is going to be chosen.
Now, is Tom Carroll involved in that?
Yeah, he approved it. Yeah, Tom Carroll looked at it. There's a string of emails that about the pump, and I thought I'd distribute that around, and that had Tom Carroll approving it, but it would be helpful to get just a second quote. So I can actually help with that.
Mike,
go ahead.
I'm just curious as to why there's a thought of having the exact same pump. There are multiple pump manufacturers out there and different vendors. To pigeonhole yourself to one particular brand of pump is you're not even giving yourself a chance to find a better deal, or perhaps even a better product.
I agree with that.
Reiner's a rep. They're not a brand.
Yeah, no, Reiner's a rep. They're a distributor. I know that. But what Paul's saying is, and I kind of agree with him, is like you're looking at a grinder pump, and there's other grinder pumps, manufacturers that may be, equal or maybe even better. The one thing I would be more comfortable with it, and not just replacing it as is, I'd rather get the opinion of Sarin, and to say, this is, we'll get the information, say, what are your thoughts on that as the engineer, and look at it and say, this is the pump you need. This is gonna, because if you get the right grinder pump, my understanding, it can last for years without clogging. So there is different manufacturers, and that might be the case, Paul. That's where we might want to get the opinion of Sarin. Does everybody agree with that?
I mean, in that investigation is that you're replacing a Myers pump with a Sulzer pump now. And the reason that is that the current Sulzer pump does not clog. And that's why the old Myers pump was determined. But I think that's a good point is that the Myers pump clogs all the time. So I think it's a good idea to bring it to Sarin's attention and see what her opinion is. But the whole story behind that is that the Sulzer pump never clogs.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I've heard that from other engineers too. Hey, Kristen, do you have an opinion on that?
I think it makes sense to ask the engineer. Yeah.
I agree. We're gonna run that by. We're gonna run by that Sarin once we get the information on the pumps, and we'll get her opinion, and we'll take it from there. There's no minutes. We don't have any minutes from the last meeting, so there's no minutes to approve. I am going to check with somebody on past minutes. That is an issue. There's the last minutes that were posted from October 2019. Obviously you had meetings since that. I don't know what happened to the minutes, where they are, if they're in the township's hand, but we're going to have to look into previous minutes. That's an issue. Approval of bills.
Really quick. I'm sorry, Mike. Mike, if I might say something regarding the minutes. So we are required to have the minutes up to date, and the auditor has asked for them. We obviously do not have them, so we will probably be written up in the audit for not having those. In the past, we did, obviously the recording secretary was doing it, and then Rich had taken it on, when we didn't have an executive director. At this point, I don't know what to recommend.
I believe that the meetings were recorded. I believe that most of those meetings were recorded, even if their minutes were not, if there was no recording secretary. So I think that they should be able to be produced.
Let
me ask.
The
recording is not. It's the recording is. I'm sorry, the recording is not the official minutes. So the minutes actually have to be like written out and then adopted at a meeting. So
right, understood.
You need someone to do that.
Yeah, that's why we were hiring a recording secretary.
Yes. Let me ask the MUA before, because Andy and I started in February. From October, November, December, were there minutes taken? And have you ever seen minutes? Or is it still in the recording form?
I think they're
in the recorded form.
They're in the recorded form, but I think Rich Wenner has them. If I'm not mistaken, during the time period there, Rich said he was going to take the minutes and transcribe them.
I know he.
We'll have to.
I know he was requested at least once to record minutes. I'm not sure if he was requested every time to keep the minutes.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if we hire a recording secretary or administrative person, they can do those. So you don't know. Well, I'll reach out to Rich Wenner and see if he did record written minutes and see what he says. I'll have to report back to everybody. Because I don't know. Me and Andy were not on the MUA then, so I don't know what the history is. But I'll check with Rich and see if he had them. Then obviously, if we have recorded meetings, eventually these are going to have to be transcribed into minutes, which is a task. Approval of bills. Did everybody have a chance to look at the bills list? And I didn't review it as I'm going to have to call this up. I'm going to have to call this the bills list. This one now, I don't know, but in my opinion, I'm comfortable. I hate to say this, but we didn't have much time to review these. So is everybody comfortable looking at the bills, or would you want to table it for another meeting?
Well, I personally gave it a cursory look over. It doesn't seem to be anything that stands out as that looks like it may be problematic. But like you said, there was a ton of time to look through them.
Let me call it up because I'm the bills list. Look at that. This one right here. If you can look on the screen, there you go. Look at that. Can everybody see that?
No.
Can everybody see that screen, the bills list?
No.
Is that a yes?
No, I can see the mayor and I can see Kristen.
You didn't, Mike, when your system went down, you did not dial back in. There you
There
go.
it
Now
is.
it's up.
Yeah.
There it is.
Sorry about that. Look at that. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. So this is the bills list? Oh, geez. So many things open. Amber Plumbing, Jersey Herald. And that's a retainer. That's the 165 is the bankruptcy attorney. And then this is the township account, the DPW work, the one call, which I have seen that. The Jersey Herald.
Question on this. Can you stop right there? Hang on a minute.
Go ahead.
On the December 2019 DPW work, is that billed into 2020 or is that into 2019?
Now?
It's actually billed to our accounts payable, so we put money aside, because we're gap accounting, so it's to our accounts payable. So we don't really function like the township does, where you have like a prior year budget you can pull from. What I do at the end of the year is I say, okay, this is what my estimated bills are. I work like a regular business for the MUA. So we take our estimated bills, what they think they're going to be, and we put it into accounts payable, and then we pay it out like we're paying it in the current year, but it's, monies that we had from last year, but it's not really last year's budget, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
Okay.
I like how you said that, Danelle. Does that make any sense? Yes, it does make sense.
Okay.
That was a fast accounting lesson.
Yes, and
That was pretty good.
Apologize to you guys for getting you the updated bills list so late this time with the additional pages. I have been working, and Mike knows this. I have been working tirelessly with Edmunds to try and fix the issues we've had with our financial accounting software.
I'm
and
well
I've been
aware of
back
that.
a million times. So so my apologies, but I wanted to get you the actual purchase orders before, so that you can look at that in addition to the bills list at least.
Thank you. Appreciate your hard work.
Danelle, I have a question about signing. If we need an executive director's signature, can I sign for the executive director?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion? Whoops, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I actually signed for the township current account ones. I signed for him because he's not here right now, for the purchase orders, so that at least they could be moved along, because the township really needs the money to for those bills.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Wait, Mike. That
Go ahead.
question you just asked in regard to signing the executive director. So if the executive director has to sign checks, is that written in the bylaws? And because the reason I ask is we were discussing a job title earlier, and if it's required for an executive director by title to sign, we may have to change some verbiage in the bylaws of that way, possible.
I'm sorry, are you talking about to sign checks?
Yeah.
Well, so there's 3 signatories on the account. So it's myself, the executive director, and the chairman. So as long as we have 2 signatures.
You have enough.
I understand that, but I mean, it should be that, if for the chairman to do it, the chairman doesn't work in town, the chairman would have to make a special trip to town to do a signature, unless it was electronic. But if it says that the executive director has to sign the check, and we no longer have the title of executive director, would we have to change the verbiage in the laws of the MUA in order to have the new position be able to sign checks?
I would. That's probably a question that Rich would answer. I would just change it anyway. Like I would have you guys do a resolution for the next individual and state who they are, what their position title is, and the person, and then that would give them the ability to sign.
Okay. Well, that's on the to-do list. We're gonna have to check with Rich Wenner to do a resolution.
Donnell,
I
who has
understand,
authority?
Paul.
Donnell, who has authority right now? You said 2 people in the town, you and.
No. So right now for the MUA, the people that can sign checks are myself, Matt, and Mike. So those are the 3 people that are on file at the bank. They have our signatures. So if anyone else signs it, they're not going to cash checks, hopefully. So I did that specifically so that before it was just 2 people. It was just myself and the executive director. But I wanted 3 people on it because if somebody leaves or is not around, we always have a 3rd person that would be able to sign them. I did speak with Mike about possibly, because of the situation we're in right now with COVID, and being able to get people in person to sign checks. Like right now, I'm on the quarantine period, so I'm not allowed in the building. So I can't sign those checks unless they're brought to my house. So I was thinking to put an electronic signature so that when we print our checks, it would print at least 1 signature on it, and then it would still need a physical signature for the 2nd person to sign.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, everything still has to be board approved anyway before we print checks.
Right.
So with that, Mike, I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
A motion by Kristen. A second?
I'll second it.
That's Dave McDermott. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good. Okay. Member comments. Anybody have anything to add individually?
I just have a question that maybe Dave might be able to answer. Has there been any movement in regard to the VFW?
That's a good question. VFW. I have not heard anything personally, but Dave, do you have anything?
Yes, I did. I spoke to excuse me. I spoke to the post commander, and I guess this was before as a matter of fact, it was right before the before this crisis, the virus crisis. They've got everything marked out. They were just waiting for, and they've got the drawing done. They were waiting for a permit, and then they were going to break ground.
And so now that they're waiting for a permit from the town?
Yes. There was one thing outstanding. Left paperwork-wise, but they got their engineer's drawing in, and so I guess after all the paperwork was done, they've just got to get I guess the permit to dig.
The construction permit.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I guess once everything clears up and everything's back up and running, they should be able to proceed.
Oh yeah, Art from the contractor who's doing the dig is Art from Notchwood, and he's got it laid out already. You can see the markings on the ground.
Very good.
He just needs a permit.
Yes, exactly. And plus, they can't. I don't think they can be working there while they're under quarantine.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Once all this blows over, and then the town has to open back up, so that you get the permit, they should be able to proceed.
Yeah.
Then. But that's good. At least you know that they're on their way. Awesome.
Yeah, Dean was very happy. He thought everything was going to be going forward, and then all of this stuff happened.
Right.
They're going to stop us all on our tracks, though. So okay.
All right, Paul.
Anybody else?
I guess I had a question about our revenue sources. I mean, I imagine like a lot of payments, some bills aren't going to get paid to the MUA. And what options or mechanisms do we have maybe to cover shortfalls? Can we be asking for any temporary relief from SCUMA? You know, Mountain Creek probably isn't going to have as much income this year, so we're going to be missing out on, you know, on that surcharge. So maybe this is for you, Donnell, just to maybe provide us some insight in terms of things that are going on at the town level or things that we can use here to you know, keep us afloat.
Yeah, so just to let you know, Mountain Creek actually just made a payment last week in the amount of almost $400,000 for the MUA. They had previously made a payment of $173,000 to the MUA and over $200,000 to the township back in January. So they're like over 90% paid in full for the MUA.
Cool.
Cash wise right now we're sitting at about 1.8 million with this probably 1.9 million with this check run. We're looking at like 1.3 million. That's amazing. When I first came on, you know, we were scraping by for cash flow. I'm pretty comfortable right now with our cash flow. You know, I don't foresee, I mean, I could always reach out to SCUMA. I don't think that they're going to give us any leeway on their payments. You know, I mean, they didn't like when the town delayed their payment in 2018. So I can't foresee that they're going to approve anything like that now, especially because they have their own capital bond payments that are due. I can reach out though to them just, you know, just to see if they're anticipating any other towns having issues and if they're making some sort of extension, you know, for any bills that haven't come in. I mean, that's really the best information I can give you. Cash flow wise, I'm pretty comfortable right now where we are, you know, as long as we're conservative.
Okay.
You know, and I think there are some things we're going to be saving on. I mean, I hate to point it out, but payroll will be saving on. So, you know,
right.
Obviously, at the end of the month, that's something that we're not going to have to pay out.
Yeah.
You know, every little bit counts. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just to know, just along that same line, we got some. Danelle gave us some information, financial information, and Andy did look at it. And Andy, I don't know if you want to comment on that. What you looked at, what you saw so far.
As far as looking at all the details. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we wanted to. We ran reports. What we considered before John Skirbo and after John Skirbo, just to see if we're you know are saving money. And Andy needs a little bit more detail. That's why we reached out and asked those questions about more detail in order to do a financial analysis to see if we are lowering our expenses, which is ultimately what's our goal.
Yeah, I mean, when we looked at this, and I was digging into a lot of the numbers, Donnell, is that I don't have enough detail to determine whether the DPW has actually reduced their hours, which we've all said, oh, we've had a reduction in hours from them. I cannot see a measurable amount of deductions or reductions unless we start looking at sheets and more detail of what's being recorded. Now, with that said, March's number from the DPW was down significantly, but still, we can't really tell if we're seeing cost savings with Matt's actions so far.
Right. That's why we're looking for that detail.
I think once you get the detail from the backup of the timesheets and each one of the purchase orders that was put through, that I think Elizabeth had emailed about, once you get that from the town side, which just really requires us to be in the office and make copies for you guys, once that's done, you'll be able to see that there has been a decrease in hours. I mean, I know just from historically when I took over in 2018 to now, there is significantly less. It's cost us significantly less. That's also why our budget is lower this year than it has been in the past for the DPW. But there is something to keep in mind. So even if you might see, certain amounts might be, let's say, like level of what they were in a prior month. They also, you have to understand that the DPW employees are union employees, so they're entitled to increases. And I know that one of the positions that obviously covers for our sewer license, that had a significant increase too. So, it could be that those salaries are increasing, which obviously increases the amounts that cost the MUA. And they can't really have any control over that,
Well, that brings up a whole nother dialogue, because you say we're taking on increases from, the way I understand this contract, we have a set fee that we pay.
No, you have no. You have a set fee based on the hours that they do. It's not like, okay, so for the services, for the CFO, for the finance services, and for the admin services, you pay a flat fee, no matter how many hours it takes, my department or myself or administration and tax, to do that stuff. It's a flat fee. But for the DPW, it's an hour by hour rate.
Right.
That's correct.
Which if we circle back to the conversations earlier about the confined space, that's where the dollar amounts come in, because if they're saying that they're going into a confined space and they need 2 people, which you would need for a confined space by law, then if they're not going into it, we could almost cut that rate down probably 40%. Because you're not going to need 2 people to go in and do these things. So that's part of the impetus in finding out this whole confined space aspect. Besides, obviously, the safety of the guys going in and out of there.
Right. And exactly. Paul, I do have a question. So, because it's my understanding that the confined space is defined by OSHA regulations. So, obviously, you and Kristen have a lot of experience with these kind of systems and stuff. So you would probably be able to look at it and be like, yeah, OSHA's going to say this is definitely a confined space or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that, like, I just anticipate, I try and prepare for the worst. I just anticipate the DPW, that they would say that these are all confined spaces. And I think that that's apparent in what they're requesting, right?
Here's the thing. Within the pump stations and within the locations, there are confined spaces. There's no doubt about that. The question arises is, do they go in them? There's people who work outside of manholes, then there's people who go into the manholes. So there's,
Right. Yeah, like a wet well is a confined space, and obviously that's filled, and if you had to clean it, that would be a confined space. And then you have to lower yourself into a confined space. But you're never emptying a wet well to clean. It's never going to happen. It's not even necessary.
And just I know we're back on this whole confined space thing, but it's kind of the one other aspect of that too is, as the township or the DPW or the MUA, do they have the equipment needed to do a confined space entry? Because a confined space entry, you need retrieval equipment, you need air monitors, you need personal air monitors, amongst other things. That if those things don't exist within the department, and I don't mean like the fire department having the borrow, that doesn't work that way. They would be there for rescue purposes if something went awry. They need their own equipment that's set up the entire time they're in there. So I don't know if the DPW or MUA, I doubt the MUA has it, but if that equipment even exists in the town. So
that's something we have to look. Exactly. We have to look into that, Paul.
Yeah. But that's for another day.
Yeah, but going back to this, Mike, on the financial side, digging into details, I've heard numbers anywhere from $25,000 to $140,000 cost savings. I cannot find those and validate them. And that's where I'm at.
Well, when we get the information, we'll look at it and come back and make those conclusions. Obviously, we have to get the information. I'll follow up on that and get the information. Okay. Anybody else? Good. Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded
by Dave McDermott. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
we got through our electronic meeting. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll follow up. We'll get those notes out. And I appreciate everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, everybody be good. Thank you. Good night. Be safe.
Good job, Mike.
Bye-bye now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike, for doing this.
Yep.